Hello.
Sensei, konnichiwa.
Yes, nice to meet you as well. Yes, I'm from Lithuania, and I'll be your teacher today. And today, I believe we have our first time lesson, right?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Indeed. So let's perhaps begin with a short introduction, all right?
I read that you're studying Japanese, so I
A little bit.
wanted to give you a chance to practice your Japanese. You know, you help so many people practice their English. So if you feel like practicing your Japanese, you can go ahead.
It's been a bit rusty, I have to admit. And these days, it's not my main practice, you see. These days, I'm more practicing in the field of 3D sculpting with the computer, essentially. That's my main focus these days. I haven't had much time to practice my Japanese
How
abilities.
long have you been studying Japanese for?
Well, it's very difficult to say because it's kind of an on and off thing for me. So I studied it a bit, then dropped it a bit, studied it a bit, dropped it a bit. I know enough to be able to read the hiragana and katakana and some kanji characters,
Okay.
but no more than 200, I would say.
Kanji, you mean?
Yes,
Okay.
no more than 200, definitely. So it's rusty. My main focus is on the reading abilities because I want to be able to read the Japanese comic books and things like that.
Yes,
It's a very
yes.
specialized thing.
It's a myth that you can learn Japanese at a even intermediate level without learning kanji.
Mhm.
So if you're serious about learning Japanese, you have to learn at least the most common 2000, I'd say. But it's a gradual process, so 200 is a good start. Okay, but now you say you are not actually reading, not trying to read.
Yeah, these days
comic
I
books.
don't have much time to do so. Yeah, it's never been a serious thing. It's mostly a hobby, you see. Because to be completely honest, I don't need Japanese. It's just to kind of supplement my lowest level Japanese students. I can help them out a little bit with some of the grammar.
I see. So when you say need, you mean you actually need, I guess, for this job. But as you said, not much.
Not particularly. It's okay not to be able to speak Japanese for this job. Believe it or not, it's not a mandatory thing.
Which word do you use the most often with Japanese people to help them with their English? Would you say?
I suppose bunpo, hatsuon,
Ah.
things like that. Meisi, doshi, things like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some of the words that can help explain what it is, right? Things like that.
What is Japanese people' number one complaint when it comes to learning English here in Japan? Okay, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Vladimir. I'm Bulgarian, but I live in Japan.
Okay.
So what is the number one complaint from your experience Japanese people have when it comes to learning English in Japan?
Yeah, it's all about the reading and the grammar, but not enough practical.
So the reason I'm
knowledge.
asking you is because the words you know in Japanese are all about grammar.
Okay. Could you, let's say, learn some very business specific expressions, right? Let's say you don't know business expressions in English, let's imagine, right? Could you practice business related expressions,
No.
learn them essentially, and okay, let's say look in the mirror, right? And try to use these expressions in appropriate
It's about
situations.
what you say between these expressions you learned. Japanese people acquire the same, but it's not just Japanese people. The same reason why native speakers of English suck at other languages, because they don't acquire knowledge through other languages, because English gives them the best quality information. That's why your Japanese is going nowhere, because you use English to get the 3D,
I don't study it.
3D modeling, 3D printing, the good quality stuff, the things you are interested in are in English. That's why
that's an interesting idea.
Comic books, and this is a good step, but it's a good first step. But that's all it is. It's for a child, it's okay. But the things you like, the things you're interested in, are in English. That's why your English is at a very high level and your Japanese is going nowhere, even though you've learned it for, I don't know, off and on for how many, 10, 12
it's
years?
It's about, you're saying, practical sort of
Language
usage.
is a tool for acquiring knowledge. That's it. Knowledge is the product.
What about
Knowledge is the product.
What about the people who wish to transition the English into becoming their first language? Is that possible? Because I'm an example of it actually being
Yes,
possible. Right?
because you've acquired more knowledge in English than in your native language.
So you're saying that people who study English, the key for them would be to try to acquire as much knowledge as possible through English, the tool of the English languages.
But knowledge is the product. That's the word speak should not be taken into consideration. Knowledge is the product. If you can get good quality knowledge in your native language, you shouldn't bother learning other languages. And that's what Japanese people do. They have access to good quality information in Japanese.
Mm-hmm. So for them to transition to the English language, they would have to be in a situation where the knowledge that they get in English outweighs the knowledge they get in Japanese.
Yes.
And you make a good point here.
That's the only
Actually,
point.
I'll use this as a baseline advice for people who ask me about that. That's a really interesting idea. Actually,
Language is a tool for acquiring knowledge. Speaking is a byproduct of knowledge acquisition. Not watching movies.
The
movies.
key is the data.
The knowledge is the product.
Yeah.
Knowledge is the product.
Data knowledge. Yeah. That's the idea.
The most difficult thing for people to understand is that language is not for speaking. Makes no sense because I'm talking to you and I'm telling you the language is not for speaking. But that's the truth. Language
So what about in your situation, for example? Do you feel you get more knowledge in English or in your native tongue?
English, by far in English. But unlike you, I started much later. I was born behind the Iron Curtain. That's why I have the accent. Your accent is much more native-like than mine. But in terms of knowledge, I've acquired a lot through English.
That's really interesting. Yeah, you definitely gave me something to think about.
Food for thought. You have one life. Don't waste it.